Okay, so have you ever noticed how some people just sail through those like social
Huh?
situations and others not so much?
Yeah.
It's like some of us really have to put in the extra effort.
Yeah.
Well, today we're diving into a space where that very skill, that ability to adapt, to navigate those
Yeah.
sometimes tricky social waters,
Yeah.
it can actually be like a superpower.
I like that.
We're talking about high-masking autistic women entrepreneurs.
It's a fascinating area. And what's really interesting is that for these women, it's not always about like being a natural high masking.
Yeah.
It's like they've had to develop this almost invisible skill set
Right.
where they're constantly having to observe, analyze, and adapt just to get through the
It's
day.
like they're putting on a performance almost.
In a way, yeah.
And then they channel all of that resilience into building these incredible
Yeah.
businesses.
Yeah.
And what's so cool is that our source material was saying that this actually equips them with some really amazing entrepreneurial strengths.
Absolutely. And, we often hear about the challenges, but
Yeah.
the strengths are extraordinary. I
Right.
mean, imagine being a problem solver on like a whole other level.
Right.
The source actually gave this really interesting example where one woman talked about how growing up, she had to come up with all of these creative workarounds just to navigate sensory overload in everyday situations.
Wow.
Situations that most people wouldn't even think twice about.
That's fascinating. And it makes total sense, though,
It
because
does.
those everyday challenges, they become like training grounds for innovation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That ability to kind of see the problems from this different angle, to find solutions that nobody else has even thought of, that's like pure gold in the business world.
Absolutely.
And, on top of that, the source also highlighted how many high-masking autistic women entrepreneurs have this incredible capacity for empathy,
Really?
even while they're busy doing all this masking.
Okay, so not only are they like problem solving in this totally unique way, they're also like deeply tuned in to the people they're serving,
Yes.
their customers.
That's huge.
That's a powerful combination.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not always easy, right?
Yeah.
The article mentioned some pretty significant hurdles that these entrepreneurs might experience.
Yeah, it's important to acknowledge that all of this adapting, it takes a toll. And one of the biggest challenges that came up was imposter syndrome. That feeling of not being good enough or doubting your accomplishments, even when objectively you're killing it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I can only imagine how much that would be amplified for someone who's spent so much time, masking,
Right.
trying to fit into a mold that doesn't quite match who they are on the inside.
Exactly.
And that constant pressure to adapt to mask it can lead to another hurdle, burnout.
Oh, for sure.
You combine that with the already demanding nature of running a business,
Right.
and it's definitely a recipe for exhaustion.
So how do these amazing women navigate that?
Yeah.
Where do they find support when it feels like you're carrying so much? It's like you need to find people who get it.
That's it.
Yeah.
The source actually talked about how vital it is to find your tribe. It
Mhm.
talked about connecting with other autistic entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And finding mentors who really get it,
Right.
who
So
have walked a similar path.
it's that feeling of I'm not alone in this.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And where mentorship can be so powerful is that you have somebody who's been there, who can offer guidance, not just on like generic business advice,
Right.
but on the specific challenges
Yeah.
of being a high-masking autistic woman entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
In fact, the source even mentioned how some women have created their own mastermind groups.
Oh, wow.
These incredibly supportive spaces where they can share resources, celebrate wins,
It's huge.
and be vulnerable about the struggles without fear of judgment.
That's so important because even with the best support system, running a business is still a ton of work. And it requires setting those like healthy boundaries, right?
Yep.
Especially when you're already dealing with the sensory overload and the social exhaustion that can come with masking.
You're right. And the source actually talked about how some of these entrepreneurs have completely redefined what success looks like for them.
Oh, that's interesting.
They're not trying to squeeze themselves into that like pre-existing corporate mold.
Right.
Instead, they're designing businesses that play to their strengths
Love that.
and to their values.
So give me an example. What does that look like in practice? How are they designing their businesses differently?
Well, think about flexible hours.
Yeah.
For someone who's like constantly having to manage sensory input, the traditional 9 to 5
Right.
can be a nightmare.
It's awful. Yeah.
But imagine having the freedom to schedule your work around your peak energy times,
Yes.
to create a workspace that minimizes distractions,
Oh my God.
and minimizes sensory overload.
Game changer.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And it's not even just about personal well-being.
Right.
This kind of flexibility can actually lead to greater productivity and creativity.
Makes sense.
When you're not constantly fighting against your own neurology, you're freed up to focus on what you do best,
Yeah.
which is building that amazing business.
You know, this is what I love about this whole conversation. It's like, it's challenging us to rethink so many assumptions,
It is.
not just about entrepreneurship,
Right.
but about neurodiversity in general.
It really highlights how much untapped potential is out there when we just create space for these different ways of thinking, different ways of working, different ways of being.
Yeah. And the source really drives this home with its call to action.
It does.
It's not just about celebrating these women for doing something difficult.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing the incredible value they bring to the table.
I love that.
Yeah.
Their unique perspectives, their attention to detail,
Yeah.
their ability to see solutions that other people miss, those are all assets.
Yeah.
Not just for their businesses, but for the world.
For anyone listening who might be thinking, this is inspiring, but how does it relate to me?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I would say look around at your own life, your own work, your own community.
Okay.
Where are the opportunities to embrace neurodiversity?
Yeah.
To support those who think differently?
That's such a good point.
Because chances are,
Yeah.
those are the people who are going to shake things up and create something truly remarkable.
It's like if you want something done differently, ask someone who's always had to do things differently.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, when we talk about high-masking autistic women entrepreneurs, it's so inspiring because they're not just like building businesses,
Right.
they're building communities,
That's a really good point.
challenging the status quo just by being their authentic selves.
Yeah. And that authenticity, it's so powerful
It is.
because it's like they're saying, this is who I am. This is how I operate. And the world needs what I'm bringing. It's a message that I think resonates way beyond just the business world.
Absolutely. It's about giving yourself permission to be different,
Yes.
to embrace what makes you you.
Love that.
And by doing that, you might just give other people the courage to do the same.
It's like a ripple effect. So as you're listening to this, thinking about your own ventures, or maybe you're just inspired by like the sheer hustle of the entrepreneurs out there, just remember the power of authenticity.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to break the mold.
And if you're ever feeling unsure, just think about those high-masking autistic women entrepreneurs out there.
Yeah.
They are proving every single day that different isn't just good, it's extraordinary.
They're kind of rewriting the rules of the game, one amazing business at a time.
I love it.
It's a journey worth watching and supporting every step of the way.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've talked about the unique strengths that these women bring to entrepreneurship, the hurdles they face, the power of building that support system that truly understands their journey. But here's a final thought for you to chew on. Imagine you could design the perfect support system for an entrepreneur like this. What would it look like? What would be absolutely crucial for someone who's navigating those challenges of starting a business while also being a high-masking autistic woman? Keep that question with you. And who knows, maybe you'll be a part of creating that support system for someone incredible. Until next time, keep diving deep.